Welcome to the Buying Your First Home podcast, your personal guide through the Australian housing market. Here we tackle the big questions and the small details that come up when buying your first home. From financial prep to finding the right neighbourhood, we're here to ensure that you've got all the knowledge at your fingertips. So let's take the first step towards unlocking the door to your new home.
Hey everyone, today we're going to talk about property valuations. I'm sure you're seeing it in the current hot market. Places are selling a lot quicker than ever, and it can be pretty easy to miss out. And it's got to do with the property values and really valuing a property correctly. It can be really frustrating to keep putting offers on properties and to be constantly outbid. You want to give up, and it just gets so frustrating. So in this video, we'll go through a couple of quick tips on how not to overpay, also on how not to underpay, because that's the main challenge in this market. You might put in an offer, you'll do your research, you'll do the property reports, you feel like you're confident, ready to go, and you might not even get a call back from the agent. If you don't know the true value of the property, you're just going to keep sort of swinging and missing, and keep missing out on the home. So you're going to work out how to truly value a property in today's market. So you've probably seen something like the comparable market analysis, a property report, a price guide. There's a bunch of different names. You might have spoken to your bank, Commonwealth Bank, ANZ. The property coaches help you with that. Your mortgage broker might have even given it to you. There's a bunch of free websites, Residix, RP Data, CoreLogic, all sorts of different reports, but they're pretty much the same thing. It's an automatic valuation that the system or a computer will spit out on a specific property, and it's going to give you an estimated value and a confidence rating. So let's break down this report and really what it's telling you and some stuff to look out for. So the first thing I want to point out is that these reports are automated and they're quick, but they're not always useful. You want to use them as a pretty broad guide. And even their confidence rating, they'll usually have some sort of a rating or a probability of correctness. And this one's saying it's fairly confident, it's fairly high. And I'm going to show you why this is completely wrong. This place literally sold last night at auction for a lot more than this figure. But the confidence rating is based on the report's own comparable sales. It's looking for properties that are similar, same amount of bedrooms, same amount of floor space, same suburb that have ultimately sold in the last 6 months. So this report's saying, hey, you should have pretty high confidence. You should be pretty certain that this place is probably going to sell for $850, maybe to stretch $930, but certainly not anymore. That's what you should think. And this is where a lot of home buyers get bogged down. They'll do this report, have a quick look, be like, yep, this thing says, or my bank has given me a report saying this place is worth up to $930. That's going to be as much as I'm going to go. That's as much as what I think it's worth. And that's where this can come undone. You see, when it comes time to get your finance, the banks have different types of valuations they'll rely on. They don't just rely on these automated valuations. Once you've secured a home, they'll start with an automated valuation. And if you paid $930, they'll put it through the system. System says, yep, we think it's worth $930, and you continue. But if you've paid $1 million, the system says $930, that's when the bank will escalate it and put it through the next process of valuation where they'll physically get someone out there to make sure what you're paying is what they think it's worth. They'll directly compare with other properties. They're going to use characteristics like the size of the property, the number of rooms, the number of bathrooms, the number of car spaces, fittings and fixtures, if it's been renovated or not, if it's got architectural features, location, the type of amenities, if it's an apartment complex that has a gym, sauna, that sort of stuff or not, and the size of the land. The bank will factor this in their valuation. But you also need to keep in mind, you need to also factor this in when you're doing your own research. So looking at these reports, things to look out for as well are it's using the correct data. It's using 2 bedroom, 2 bathroom, 2 car space, which is accurate for this place. And the square meterage, you're going to have to work out yourself or rely on what's in there potentially, unless you've got a tape measure and you're going to do it there. The nice thing with this report is it's got some of the sales history. I've also seen people get misled on this. They might get excited and say, well, they paid $20,000 for it in 1980. I'm definitely going to get it for a bargain. Unfortunately, a property is going to sell for what it's worth and what the next person is going to pay, which is really why we're here in this video. Now, where these reports fall down is it has just trawled its database looking for 2 bedroom, 2 bathroom, ideally 2 garage places in new farm in the suburbs that have sold recently. And that's where you can get a bit of a bum steer. This has sales ranging from 860, 810, 750, 732, 732. These sales are completely not comparable because the property we're looking at has a big courtyard, it has double garage, and other characteristics that this report isn't going to detect. So what do? This is unfortunately where there are no shortcuts on working out how to value a property. At the end of the day, you're spending hundreds of thousands of dollars, and as much as it's nice to rely on the automated reports, you're going to have to do your own research to be confident in the amount you're paying. The best way to do this is look at recent sales. So literally go to realestate.com.au or domain, click on the sold section, type in your suburb, And then filter. So first we want to look for units. You want to look at, say, bedrooms, 2 bedrooms, minimum 2 bathrooms. And you can do the car space, but let's leave that off for now. So starting at a high level, you might see some recent sales, 775, 940, etc. But you need to then potentially look at these individually and say, well, this one's for 940, it's only got a 1 car space, and go through and work out and judge apples with apples. Now, like I said, this property was a little bit unique in that it had fairly modern kitchen, outdoor area, big living room, and some pretty generous bedrooms compared to some of the others that are out there. And you need to probably get a bit more subjective when you're comparing this. Internally, also, it was a lot bigger. It's 200 square meters once you factor in potentially the car space and everything else. Now, RP data before, it only had 100 square meters, so it's not quite accurate from the get-go. So as you go through the sales data, you need to start shortlisting results, looking at similar apartments. So you want to look at ones that have 2 bedroom, 2 car space, etc. And you need to factor in things like view. For example, this one might be similar size, maybe slightly smaller internally, but it has a city view. It's sold for 1.1. That might be a bit of a high mark. This one, similarly, 2 bedroom, 2 bathroom, sold for just over $1 million, but doesn't quite have the outdoor space and has a lot smaller balcony area. Same as this one, had 2 bedroom, 2 car space, smaller, 1.1, sold in April. So it's an older sale. But you need to use all these sales results to try and triangulate your final sale price. Now, this property, interestingly, it went to auction last night. Our client had a budget of about $1 million. It ended up selling for $1,060,000, $1.060 million, which is crazy. It's way more than what my client expected, way more than the range that was published here. So do keep that in mind. Other people have sort of looked at the data. They might be downsized and have deeper pockets. They might be looking at these sales and saying, well, we think it's similar to this. It's bigger internally. It has an outdoor space. It's in a better position potentially in the city, and we're willing to pay more. Another thing to keep in mind is the market and the movements, because you can't change the market. It is how it is. And although you might want to pay what prices were a couple of years ago, if you're looking to get in the property market, it's kind of like shares. You have to pay the price of the day. And although Commonwealth Bank shares were selling for $10 years and years ago, the current price today is what you're going to have to pay. So if you're just at the start of the process, you might just be looking online, not gone to any open homes. It's worth trying to have a bit of understanding of the market and the city that you're living in. So to display that, this CoreLogic indices is a good one. Just understand what prices were maybe 12 months ago. In your mind, you might have an understanding that they were obviously a lot cheaper, but by how much? So looking at this, a good place to start some of these indices, it'll have the change year on year. It'll even have a difference between, say, houses and units, which is a good one. But let's use the new farm example again as a bit of an understanding. So Brisbane, say, has moved 12% year on year. So one of the examples I have here is this unit, which is really comparable, but sold almost a year ago for $926,000. And you'd be forgiven for thinking that this is directly comparable. You're like, yeah, well, this is the same sort of unit. It's 2 bedroom. It's got similar amenities, similar finishes. So as my comparable sale, this is directly comparable. Unfortunately, it's not, because the market has moved in the last 12 months by almost 12%. So for you to, I guess, almost normalize this and make this comparable, you need to get the price from a year ago and then increase it by 12%. So then if this property sold for today, based on the current market movements, it's probably going to sell for $1,040,000. So you might even need to do some adjustments on prices like this. It's similar, like if the market is moving, at the moment it's moving 1% a month. So if a place sold for 900,000 even last month, you need to increase it by that extra 9,000, the 1%, to sort of factor in market movements. Now, this isn't precise, but at least it's more giving you an understanding and helping you make sure you're not underbidding, because you're just going to miss out and it's going to cause more of that frustration. This other sale that I've got here, it's sold about 6 months ago for 980. Same thing, you need to look at the indices, look at potentially change on quarter, changes, the market's gone up like, roughly 6 months from then. So 980 times 6% means it's going to sell for $1,040,000. So realistically, if you're looking in a market for a new farm for 2 bedrooms, you're going to be paying over $1 million now, because the market has moved in the last 6 to 12 months. And the best way to do that is look at these indices. It's not going to be an exact science, but unfortunately, property isn't an exact science. It relies on, some emotions, obviously, but some figures like this. And the main thing is arming you with the tools to make sure that you're not going to be grossly underbidding and getting frustrated, because that's the other side of the coin. We see it a lot where home buyers might be out there for 6, 12, 18 months looking for homes and just constantly just missing out because you're not factoring in the movement in the market, and what people are willing to pay on the property is what they're willing to pay on the day. So the steps in how to value your property are, firstly, find local sales. So find properties that are within 2 kilometers of the property that you're looking at, same bedroom, same improvements, same car spaces that have sold within the last 6 months, and shortlist them. You then need to go through each individual sale and take a bit of a subjective view and say, well, how's it better? How's it different? Does it have views, gym, sauna, pool? All those little things make a difference to try and work out the current value. Now, the key here is to remember that these automated reports have older data in there. It has sales from almost a year ago that aren't quite accurate in today's market. So keep that in mind. Step 2, as you're going through these sales, is working out, are they comparable? Even looking at the bedrooms, if it's a 2-bedroom, look at if they're big and generous or they're small little shoebox, there's no window. These things will all make a difference when the bank's valuing it at the end of the day. Remember, views and even the quality of finishes makes a difference. So if it's an older kitchen, you might need to mark it down compared to a property that's got a brand new kitchen that's just been completed. Step 3, each individual sale you need to mark as superior or inferior. Is it better or worse than the property you're looking at? This will help you determine if the property price and the value is accurate for your purposes, or if it's inferior and sold for a lot less, you can use that as a baseline for your price. Step 4 is you need to adjust for market movements. The property market is dynamic. It can move from a buyer's to seller's market pretty quickly. You'll get a good feel for this looking at open homes, but other resources like SQM data and DSR data can be good. There's specific property reports for where you're looking. I'll include the link below to check that out. And did you know at Hunter Gallery, we're the home for home buyers across Australia? If you need help with finance or you're thinking about getting a pre-approval, hit us up at huntergalloway.com.au. Until next time, see you guys.